Well, here I have a pile of junk on my desk, so I suppose now I can do some cleaning and some tidying up here while I wait for the parts to arrive. And by cleaning and tidying up, I of course don't mean my bench, but of the parts themselves. So here are my carburetor parts, except for that. So, figured I'd start with that. Alright, with the carburetor dry, we can get that cleaned up and back together. Just gotta find the float bowl. Float bowl, nice and clean. Now, I don't quite remember where this tag was, but honestly it doesn't really matter. Let's get this old gasket off of here the best we can. Hopefully it doesn't break on me. Nope, perfect. So I got some gasket sealing compound. Really, this should get a new gasket. Let me see if I have one. So gasket sets often come with extra gaskets. Carburetor case often come with extra gaskets. So I'm hoping that is the same one. So far it kind of looks like it. Look at that. Perfect. No additional money needed. So let's throw this thing away. That gasket is pretty bad. It's dried and shaped all weird. It's not pretty. So coat this one just like the last one. Now keep in mind I've already cleaned up both mating surfaces. And just kind of didn't film that part. Put our new one on here. Yeah, it's a good idea to change that thing. Last one's probably been on or off 15 times. It felt pretty bad. Let's get our carburetor. Also, clean surfaces. Slide it back on. Get our 2 carburetor nuts. Lift it up a little. Just get a nut on there. I'll do the other side. Go ahead and install the needle before I drop that too many more times and destroy it. So next step is our carb roller. Cam roller, cam follower, I don't know what you want to call it. Give it a test, make sure no binding. Yep, smooth operation. Feels like it's working great. and I think it looks a lot better than it did when it came off. So at least we're in the right direction now. Here are our parts. So we've got our water pump kit instructions outside of the box. I probably did that. Some trash. More trash. Our wine voucher, which is trash. If you work at boats.net, please stop telling them to send me this junk. We got our spark plug. We'll have to gap it, of course. Look at that nice, pretty new looking packaging too. That's just nasty. The plug looks like it's from the 80s. There's our spring, spark plug wire, and our engine tuner can, which we'll use later. So obviously the only thing we really need, spark plug wire, water pump kit, and our spring. And then the rest is just kind of stuff. Alright, let's get to stuff. So what I'm going to do now is take off all the steel parts. Looks like they're all the ones that are kind of rusting. The aluminum is primered with what's called zinc phosphate. I've been top coated. I'm kind of wondering if the iron is primered with the same stuff, causing the paint to flake or to absorb moisture, leading to rust. Because you see this all the time. Just on steel parts, mind you, which is this, the steering handle, bolt heads, and the tilt lever here. So I'm going to remove them. I'm going to take them over to my sandblaster, sandblast them real quick, primer them, and then paint them. I already did the steering handle, kind of give it a quick sand down too. So you can see the little bit of rust spots left on it, but it'll work. I'm going to continue on here, cleaning up these parts. Let's pull this handle off. Handle's off. It's pretty rusted, but yeah, it'll clean up. Well, looks like our rubber little mounting here is fine. So it's probably falling out as just junk. So I'm going to I'll be cleaning that up too, but I'll do the handle and the steel parts first. So while I'm here, might as well just take the entire assembly apart. That'll help me to get to a couple of things. Bottom's okay too. Well, I don't know about okay, but it's doable. Set that off to the side. Now it allows me to get this thingy in and out a little easier. So let me rotate the camera. Looks like it's held in with a little spring right there. So the plan is to unclip the spring. Now, both of these should slide right out. And that's pretty disgusting. So, probably going to be glad I'm doing this. Now we'll go take these over the sandblaster and clean them up a little bit. Well, I guess the parts came out about as well as you'd expect. Not that great, but they were pretty heavily rusted too. So, the handle's okay, but you can still see some heavy pitting. So I'm just going to call it a day at that. I'm going to use some of the rusty metal primer on it. Obviously the factory primer didn't do that good of a job to begin with, so this couldn't really hurt anymore. So go ahead and paint these and reinstall them. So I removed the steel friction block out of the little area right here, which revealed some rust, so I'm going to clean up the two rotating surfaces here. Wire wheel and a drill. Alright, I'm going to use my tap sockets here. And use that to clean out all the thread holes. I want to clean the bottom brackets. Problem is I didn't have a good way to hold it. So this is me showing you what I invented. The method I invented, rather. There you go. Alright, I got the center section cleaned, dry. I got this cleaned out fairly well. You know, you could sit here and scrub for days and get that little bit out, but it's okay. I didn't have the correct color Evinrude paint like I thought I did, and I don't really think it was worth the 20 bucks for another can to get it. So this is just Rust-Oleum with a top coat. You can see it's really needs a new piece, but this probably still has plenty of life left in it, so I'm just going to run with it. So we'll get the center section back together and take it from there. I got the new piece on, now I'm just going to hook up the spring. I'm using a Phillips here. The theory here was the spring can guide into the channel head of the Phillips, but apparently it's not really working as I thought it might. But nothing new. Alright, spring's back in, it's working. A little bit of dirt I just wiped on it. I'll get that off. But you can really see the color difference. Yeah, well. I already got the hardware cleaned out. Holes were tapped and the bolts were wire wheeled. So I'm going to load this guy full of grease. Install the little friction block now. Gotta get that centered. Same way it came out. Right about there should do it. Apparently my stopper tool is missing again. Don't know why that happens. This is some kind of stern drive pinion tool. It's holding it great, as you can see. Put anti-seize on these. I put anti-seize on everything, but well, now's about a good time as any to get this spark plug wire changed. Now the reason I got to change it because the wire is all crumbling and cracking. It feels pretty horrible. So all I got to do is pull off the ground wire. There's a flathead screw under here. I'm gonna pull that out. I don't know if you got to pull it out. You probably get away with just loosening it, but see what happens in a second. You also got a little spring there, just so you know. And our plate lifts right off. So, probably could have pulled it off with the bushing in place, but whatever, this works. So there's a clamp underneath. That's got to go. photos, whatever that is. Yeah. Alright. So there's our clamp. Might be able to change the wire without removing the coil, just forcing the new one in there. So I'm gonna give that a shot. Let's get this junk out of the way. We need to crimp ourselves a wire. So we got a terminal, we got a boot, and we got some new wire. I have another video showing you exactly how to do this, just in case you're wondering. So my lead needs to be about that long. So I'll score it right there. I'll just kind of rotate it around on the blade. A little bit of pressure, the blade finds its way in. And when I feel like I'm getting close, I stop. Twist the end, which breaks it the rest of the way. Pull it off, and there's our wire. We fold the wire around. We have our special crimpers. Close that a little bit. Put our wire into the terminal. And we give it a crimp. Do the entire terminal like that. And there we have our new modern crimped on terminal, which the camera won't focus on. There you go. Not too shabby, huh? So we just put it in the boot. Long side, or the short side, goes on the spark plug. And that goes in there. And there's our new wire. So now we just copy our old wire. See how long we need to make it. I always go a little bit longer, just for a safe measure. Apparently the cutters can't cut all the way through it. Don't know what that's about. But there's our new wire. Now I don't have any tubing that fits over the wire like this one does, but I have a little bit bigger tubing. I probably don't need the tubing, but you know, I figure it can't hurt, right? So I'll just kind of put over it. It might give it some protection. So now, should be able to get this back inside of that coil. The bushing thing's going to have to line into that little slot, so if you're doing one of these, keep that in mind. At the same time, you're also going to need to spread out your point a little bit. Make sure it's all going to fit, and it looks like that went right back on. So that's pretty handy. Reinstall our screw and tighten it down. It's pretty tight right there. I don't want that tight. That's a good feel. Now our ground wire. I'm not going to put any anti-seize on this, just because I want to make sure it gets a good ground and the anti-seize doesn't get in the way of that. It doesn't look like any was on there when I pulled it out. Could be the same reason. Yep, looks good to me. And there's our nice new wire with our ugly coating here, but if the gives us any problems, I can just razor blade it off there. So now I'll get the flywheel on. Before the flywheel goes on, now is a good chance to clean your points. So you're supposed to use a points file here. I don't have a points file. The other option is replace the points. I don't feel like doing that either. But what I do have is a piece of 600 grit sandpaper. So what I do, open it up, put the sandpaper in there, slide it out. Open it up, slide it out again. I'm using the little razor blade here to open the point. You see what I'm doing? So you slide it in, let go, and slide it out. So that side's probably good and clean. Now I'll do the back side. And realistically, that's pretty much all you really need to do. I've had pretty good luck doing this. Some others may argue it. Some may say that's the wrong way to do it. But for me personally, I've always found that works fine. We didn't change the point at all. We didn't adjust anything. You can check it now. It's probably not a bad idea to do that. Question is, do I want to? Probably should. Make sure it's opening and closing at the right spot. So we're nearing near the opening, and it's just about to open. So it opens. Should open right there. And right when it hits that, it opens. So I don't think any adjustments are needed. If so, we'll do it when the time comes. Alright, let's get the flywheel on. You want to make sure the flywheel key is still correct. It doesn't want to match the taper. It needs to match parallel to the crank here. So not sideways, straight up and down, which ours looks pretty close. No anti-seize or anything on the crankshaft threads there. Well, not threads, but the taper. So keep that in mind. Put our flywheel nut on. Washer, followed by our flywheel nut. Alright, right on top, 22 to 25 foot-pounds of torque. So we're going to get out the old torque wrench and do that. So you should use a strap wrench here to hold the flywheel while you tighten it down. But there's ways to do it without one, so I'll be doing that. Has that hole there. That's going to be kind of handy for us. It's my improvised way of doing this. So we're going to be twisting it this way with the wrench. So we're going to have our rope go this way. All I'm going to do is wrap it around the cylinder head here a couple of times and kind of tie it into something. Now the wraps are doing all the holding. See what I mean? There is no pressure here. So, got my torque wrench set. Got a 9/16 on it. Let's hope this works and doesn't fly off and hit me in the face. So in bigger engines, it's a little easier to do this because the engine can't freely rotate all the way around. This one can. I didn't see that one coming. So I have to hold it with one hand while doing the torque wrench in the other. I don't know how easy it's going to be. Perfect. Oh, flywheel's torqued. Hear the everything kind of working. You can hear it sucking air here, coming out the spark plug hole. So I might as well test the spark, make sure that's still working. I hooked up the spark tester. Just want to make sure we still have spark. This is a funky way to do this, so gotta kind of balance the rope on there. Oh, looks good. Alright, as I always do, I run a tap down all the thread holes to make sure I don't have any problems. I've already cleaned up the attaching screws. Just so you know, these are 1/4-20. I have a 1/4-20 tap and my Leslie tap sockets. So I'll be doing that now for both the lower mounting and the water pump. And the water pump threads are a 10/24. So I've already cleaned out the inner areas here. I've already tapped the holes, so keep that in mind. Our first step is install our little water pump spacer. You have two little prongs there, two big prongs in the back. Little prongs are going in the middle hole, so it'll sit back in there like that. If you watch my first video on this engine, you'll see me removing this. The instructions are kind of vague on the whole thing. They're not vague, they're probably incredibly detailed, but the problem is a layman like myself has no idea what they're talking about. I'll read it to you in a second. Once I figure out how to get these in there. Perfect. Alright, it says, install the plastic pump spacer, F, in the pump cavity of the gear case, so the side with the two small prongs are towards the cavity, and the prongs enter the large main water intake hole of the gear case. Okay, so that's how that goes. Next step is to oil the impeller blades. You could use Dawn here, you could use oil, you could probably use whatever you wanted really. I had some PB Blaster sitting on my bench, so that's what I'll be using. It's debatable if the I don't know, the chemicals inside the PB Blaster would slowly deteriorate the rubber, or deteriorate it faster than it normally would. But I'm going to say it's fine. Alright, we got some light oil applied. It says to now install it into the cup by rotating in a clockwise direction. So we're going to give that a try. Hopefully it's not too bad. Alright, this ain't easy. Alright. You can see, piece of cake. I do kind of want to turn it, just to make sure it's all in there all the way. Let me find something to get in there with. Yeah, looks good to me. Now it says to install the impeller plates into the cup. Excuse me, the pump body. So the long tab enters the water outlet. Which water outlet's this? Long tab that way. Now it says to install the cup to make sure that the tabs are into the pump body. But one thing I do notice here is how the impeller is going to be going into the onto the drive shaft. I don't want my key up, so I'm going to rotate it. So see the impeller key now? It's going to line that way. That won't give me any issues. Probably should have notated that in the instructions, but oh well. So this is pretty straightforward. It kind of fits in there like so. Now it says to oil the grommet and install it into the pump body. So again, I'm just going to put some PB Blaster on it. That's some good oil, right? I think I have a tool that actually installs these things. Should probably just find that. This will work. As long as you don't pierce it. And my nice, pretty new pump body is now completely caked in the PB Blaster. So we'll wash that down. Oh, anything might help it. Alright, perfect. And there's already an impeller key in here. Let me just see if I can get a better one with some more light. That'll have to do, I guess. Alright, water pump's going to install like so, which means my key needs to be over there. So right about like so. Yep. So I'll slide it down over the drive shaft. Which apparently not that easy. So looking inside the hole and spinning it, I can see that the water pump's moving. See if you can see what I'm seeing. So you know it's working, but never really be too sure. So I'm gonna double check. I want to find out I'm gonna have problems. Yeah, it went right on there. All right. Let me show you something else. The instruction kit doesn't mention this, but the repair manual does. That when you install a new water pump, it won't seat flush on there. It'll have half of a millimeter or so of spacing between the pump body and the gear case. That's normal. So when you install the screws tightened down, it seals it all together. So if you see that gap and it not fitting flush, don't worry, that is how it's supposed to happen. Yeah, let's get the screws. So the kit comes with new screws, but we will need to apply some gasket and sealing compound to them. Make sure they don't ever seize in there. Gasket sealing compound. Pretty easy to do. Zoom up a little. We have our new screws. Get some on there. Can leak everywhere, doesn't really matter. Nice and coated. So now I'll go clean up my gloves. And we'll tighten these down. You can already see the pump being pulled and seated into the gear case. So that's good. Now we'll just torque these down to the proper specs. Rotate up here, top of our drive shaft. I've already wire wheeled it nice and clean. Our kit comes with some moly lube. Open that up and apply it to the top splines here. The kit also came with a O-ring for the top of the drive shaft. Should your model have had one, ours did not, so we don't need to install it, but it is notable. It's always nice when they come with parts you need. And extra parts. I like to save the extra parts in case I ever need them. As you saw with the carburetor that I rebuilt on this engine. The gasket came from another, I think a 6 horsepower. I redid at one point in time. And saved a little gasket, should I ever needed it, which apparently I did here. So I put a lot on here. You don't need to do that much. But can't hurt. You don't want to get any on the top, just the sides. And that is way too much, but whatever, it'll work. Alright, before we install the gear case, I want you to oil, grease, or use soap on the drive shaft pickup tube here. Okay, drive shaft pickup, water pickup, whatever. Water pickup tube. So I'll be putting just a dab of triple guard. I find it works pretty well on them. You don't want to get on the inside, but outside's perfectly fine. Alright, perfect. I will install our gear case. And it's going to be a little difficult for me with this tripod in the way. So let's rotate you guys. And try to install this. Without getting crap all over the top of the drive shaft splines. I'm also lining up the water tube now, which fell out. Alright, how am I doing this? I'm guessing there's probably some kind of crankcase hole it needs to fit into. Let me get a flashlight and look inside of there, see what we're dealing with. See the inside there? Well, you don't have the perspective that I do, or at least the depth. It's got a crankcase little head that kind of seats down further, so it's, I don't know how to explain it, but at least you know what it looks like in there. Alright, so basically what we have is one of these up inside the power head. So what I'm doing is trying to get the shaft in here, and it's going all over the place. What needs to happen is it needs to go straight in like so. Because if it's over here, obviously it ain't going in. So that's kind of the struggle that I'm going to have. No big deal, a lot of engines go like that. You just got to get it straight. The problem is getting it straight while also trying to get the water tube in. It's a little hard, but I'll manage. Perfect. Keep in mind I've already ran a tap down the screw holes, and I've already wire wheeled the screws clean. So to make sure they don't ever seize in there, well, not ever, but make sure they don't ever seize in there soon. We coat them in the gasket sealing compound and just kind of put them on in. There's a long one and a short one. Short one goes in the front. Short one goes in the back there. The long one goes in the front. Get a wrench and tighten those down. Alright, gear case is reinstalled. I'll go ahead and put the propeller back on now. I just reattached the lower cover here, bolted it on from the bottom. I did notice 2 screws were supposed to be in the front. Those are missing, so I'll be replacing those at some point. So right now I'm going to put the gas tank back on. This isn't too hard. Pretty simple. It's a pretty good idea to get it done out of the way so you don't lose or break it. What I find is getting another one of these ain't easy. So all I did was slide it in, little slots line up. Fuel tank or fuel inlet is down on this side right here. So obviously this goes over there. I don't know if you can put it on wrong. You could put it on wrong, I guess, but it just naturally fits better this way. So we have our 2 clips. Don't think these matter entirely which way they go in, as long as they're going in. There's one, and one usually holds it in place for you. And there's 2. So now we'll do the gas line. New fuel line here. It's the same length as the old one. In fact, I used the old one to determine the length. So just put that onto the fuel fitting, onto the tank, and onto the carburetor. Pretty simple. I suppose you could have the gas line going over or under the spark plug wire, depending on how you want to do it, but I don't see it making a difference. So, I'll get some zip ties or some clamps of some type, put them on each end. Alright, let's get this starter spring out of here and hope it doesn't blow up on me, and hope this works, period, actually, because it's gonna. So somehow we're going to have to hold the back piece while undoing this screw. And I don't think that's going to happen. Alright, I'm going to remove the bottom spring here, just in case I run into any issues, I don't break it. Yeah, just slide it out of the way, it's fine. Alright. Plan is to try to hold it with some pliers first. Then, if that doesn't work, use some vice grips. That seems like that's working fine. There goes the starter spring. There goes the rest of the starter spring. Oh yeah. That looks good. Let's get this rope cut. Apparently I need a new gasket chisel. Okay. Not too bad. Didn't smack me in the face. That's unusual. There's our spring. Now, you could argue, probably wire wheel this thing up, you know, get some lube on it, and it'd probably be fine, but I don't know, they're not that much money. Might as well just replace it. Usually they're cracked and broken once they get that rusted, but anyway, throw that away. So we're going to clean this up. Doesn't look too bad, really. I'm going to clean the bottom there. We're going to clean this rust dust off here. Clean up our hardware, clean up our screw, and yeah, then reassemble. Let's get our old rope out. Don't need that anymore. So there's a type of lubricant for the spring here. It's called Luprate 777. You can buy it from Evinrude. It's a little tub of it's $20. Or you can buy it elsewhere. Buy a drum for a couple of $1,000. So I don't have any of it, so I'm just going to use some alternative, which is white lithium grease. If you can find some kind of special starter type grease, probably be advisable. You know, like a what's it called? Starter Bendix grease. But you know, whatever works, right? So I'm going to put some on the inner piece here. You're also supposed to grease the starter spring itself. Mentions that, doesn't mention how to do it. We're also going to grease this up. Alright, looks good to me. So, spring goes in this slot there. The inner slot here kind of goes like so. See what it does? And then we wind it in there. Now, usually when you buy one of these springs, it's supposed to be pretty easy to do because it's already kind of wound up for you. Apparently not so much in my case here. So I'm going to hold the spring and break these zip ties off. Yeah, not too bad. It went everywhere, but whatever. Alright, now I have a nice long spring located out on the garage floor. I'm going to put some on the spring and just rub my hand across it. In theory, that'll be enough to lubricate it up. That needs to go inside like so. This guy needs to go into there, and we need to wind it in a counterclockwise direction until the spring's all the way in there. It'll be a little while, and it won't entirely be that easy. That won't be impossible. Also, there's a 2 slots on that. You saw the 2 slots on the starter housing here. Those need to align. Pretty straightforward on that one. We'll put our screw back in. It's not in all the way, it's kind of sitting in there. So it's going to give me enough to get the starter spring re-engaged inside of there, and I'll tighten it down a little more. Now, you're also supposed to put some Loctite on that screw, so keep that in mind. And that should do it. So I'm going to feed it in with one hand. I'm going to wipe any dirt or grease or anything that came on there along with this, and I'm going to try to spin this in there. Might be a point where I take it over to my vise here, depending on how tight it gets. having this screw in there as tight as it is might help out a little bit. So I'm almost to the end here. I have another 2 or 3 feet to do. So I moved my rag out of the way, wiped the rest of the spring down, just to make sure no dirt or dust or hairs from the garage floor got inside of there. And our spring is in. Perfect. Not too bad, huh? Tighten this down a little more. That seems quite tight, so I think we're okay there. So far, so good. Kidding. The spring just came dislodged from the pulley. That sucks. Alright. Let's do it again, shall we? So hopefully the spring stays put and just the pulley drops. That's what should happen anyway. Alright, now that's fixed. We're only going to rotate it counterclockwise. Apparently if you go clockwise you dislodge that spring. So don't do what I just did. Now we're going to ready our rope. Alright, I have a long piece of paracord here. I don't remember the diameter. I think it's 3/16. I think. So what we're supposed to do here is rotate it counterclockwise 3.5 turns and install the rope. So now we're going to do this. So there's 1, 2, 3 and a half, but there ain't no way we're getting our rope in there like that, so we're going to get another turn here. A piece of wire that you could force in there and guide through the back end right now. That'd be pretty handy. They also make a tool that can go inside of a handle and grab the rope. I always thought it was a dumb tool up until right now. Alright, the end of our rope just came through. So apparently it's still a dumb tool. So I wasn't expecting to have to thread this rope all the way through there. But no big deal. So somehow I gotta hold this while tying a knot. Yeah, works pretty well. Alright, I'm going to trim that off heat it up with a lighter, and then fix a handle onto it. Should do it. Here's our old cord rope and handle. So, as you can see, not really in good condition. Let's get this off, get our little end off. I like to put the end through there first so I don't lose it. Yes, that happens. And now we gotta get in there and pry out the little knot inside. Done. So our rope's going to end right there. Make sense? So pull it out a little bit. Now if you cut it here, tie a knot anywhere around there, you'll be fine. So let's just aim for right about there. The rope will stretch out a little bit too, so maybe I'll go in a little more. Like right there if I put the knot. Now, when you do that, don't touch that rope. You'll have some pretty good burns there. It's kind of like melting plastic and you're touching it. Just not fun. A little looser than I would have expected, but it's working. All right, let's get this top back on. Over here. So, I'm going to pull the gas cap off so the tank will fit over it. Oh, the tank, the starter thingy here. Alright, I've gotten 2 screws already cleaned up for the back. Need to put some gasket sealing compound on the screws to make sure they don't give you problems in the future. You probably don't need to worry about them up here. These don't sit in the water line, but you'd be surprised. So, I would just do it at a safe measure. Alright, now for the front. So the throttle here, see this clip? It's the throttle detent spring. So our lower cover mounts here, go up like so. This side has this little detent spring. So I think what that does, I'm assuming anyway, is to make sure the throttle, when you're at full throttle, doesn't vibrate itself down to stopping. So you gotta keep that in mind when you put this together. So this is gonna go up. Throttle spring's gonna line with that thing down there. See what it does? It's good to me. So we'll tighten that down. And it doesn't hold very much, but it definitely clips in there. Now we got our one last screw and little mount thing, clip rather. Let's go ahead and put it on the right side of the screw. Now we can check to make sure it's still working. Yeah, looks good so far. Alright, spark plug gap is 0.30. 0.030. Yeah, 30,000, I don't know what it is. So anyway, check the spark plug gap, put the spark plug in. Now that we have one. Plug wire back on. Now, once I find where I put the propeller, I'll put that on, and we'll start this thing up and see what it does. So before I forget, do need to top off the gear case fluid. And that should do it. Okay, got the engine in a bucket of water here. Got it gassed up, spilled gas everywhere, let that dry-ish, and we'll try to start it and see what happens. Couple of slow turns here. We'll choke it and give it a little throttle and give it a shot. Met a slight problem with the thing not getting gas, so that should be remedied now. So let's try it again. Started up first pull there, so that's pretty good. That was already warmed up too, so that didn't really mean much. Well, it looks like it's doing okay. We'll let it idle for a while. We'll keep an eye on the water level, put some more in as needed, get it kind of warmed up, and then we'll do a defog. Or an engine tune, I guess you can call it. See the mist coming out of the relief holes there? That's your kind of water pump indicator. Just get my hand kind of wet there. So keep an eye on that. See our water pump's working. Well, that's the end of my video for my little Johnson Colt here. So hope you enjoyed it. Small, simple little motors, decently cheap to work on. This one's about done, runs good, starts up okay, and yeah, no real issues. Don't know what I'm going to do with it, but we'll see what happens when the time comes. I'll put some links in the descriptions for any of the solvents, oils, fluids that I've used in this, and any available special tools, which I don't really think there were any. But, yeah.